How much of your damn life have you sacrificed just to make people comfortable? Be honest. How many times did you shut your mouth when you wanted to speak? How many times did you say, yeah, sure, when everything inside you was screaming, hell no? How many dreams did you quietly bury because you didn't want to disappoint someone? Wake up. You're not kind. You're not selfless. You're addicted to approval. And that addiction is ruining your life. It starts small. You don't wear what you want because someone might judge you. You don't post what you really think because someone might disagree. You don't chase the career you want because your family wouldn't understand. You don't end the relationship because you're scared of being the bad guy. So you shrink, little by little, day by day, year by year. You become the version of yourself that offends the least amount of people. And the worst part? They still judge you anyway. Nobody is coming to give you permission to live your own life. Nobody is going to sit you down and say, it's okay, you can finally be yourself now. That moment isn't coming. Stop waiting for it. You check your phone constantly. You measure your worth by likes, comments, reactions. You feel high when people validate you. You feel crushed when they don't. That's not confidence. That's dependency. You built your identity around being acceptable, around being liked, around not being rejected. And now you feel empty. Because when you remove everyone else's expectations, there's nothing solid underneath. That's the price of living for other people. You wake up tired even when you slept 8 hours. You feel stressed, but you can't explain why. You feel stuck, but technically everything looks fine. You have a job. You have friends. You're not broke. But deep down, something feels off. That's your real self suffocating. You know what's insane? The same people you're trying so hard to please are not losing sleep over your life. They're busy worrying about themselves. They're scrolling. They're distracted. They are living. And you're over here designing your entire existence around what they might think. Wake the hell up. You get one life. One. Not two. Not a trial version. Not a rehearsal. And you're spending it performing. You smile when you're frustrated. You agree when you disagree. You apologize when you did nothing wrong. You say it's okay when it's absolutely not okay. Why? Because you're afraid of conflict, afraid of rejection, afraid of being alone, afraid that if you stop pleasing people, they'll leave. Let me tell you something brutal. If someone only stays in your life because you shrink yourself, they were never there for you. They were there for the version of you that served them. That's not love. That's convenience. You've confused being needed with being valued. And now you're exhausted. You're constantly calculating your words, constantly adjusting your personality. Different version of you for work, different version for friends, different version for family. You're shape-shifting like your survival depends on it. But here's the truth that hurts. The more you try to be everything for everyone, the more you lose yourself. And one day, you wake up and you don't even recognize the person in the mirror. You feel resentment building, quietly, slowly. You start blaming people for controlling you. But deep down, you know the truth. They didn't force you. You volunteered. You said yes when you meant no. You tolerated what you shouldn't have. You stayed silent when you should have spoken. Because approval felt safer than authenticity. Comfort felt safer than confrontation. And now you're paying for that comfort with your potential. Look around. How many opportunities did you pass up because someone might not support it? How many risks did you avoid because you didn't want to look stupid? How many times did you shrink your ambition so other people wouldn't feel insecure? Stop ruining your own life to protect other people's feelings. Your life is not a public service.
You don't exist to be digestible. You don't exist to be easy to handle. You don't exist to make everyone comfortable. And the longer you keep playing this role, the harder it becomes to break out of it. Because people get used to the small version of you. And when you finally decide to grow, they'll call you selfish. They'll call you different. They'll say you've changed. Damn right you changed. You're supposed to. But right now, you're still stuck. Still choosing safety over strength. Still choosing approval over power. Still choosing to ruin your own damn life just so nobody else feels uncomfortable. And that needs to end.
Let's be real. You don't hate your life. You hate the fact that it doesn't feel like yours. Every decision you made was smart. Every move was responsible. Every choice made sense to someone else. But when was the last time you did something that scared you because it mattered to you? Not because it impressed someone, not because it looked good, not because it kept the peace. Because it was yours. You keep telling yourself, it's fine, this is just how life works. No, that's how a trapped life works. You wake up, grab your phone, scroll through other people living boldly while you quietly negotiate with your own fear. You see people starting businesses, moving countries, changing careers, speaking their minds. And what do? You double tap. You admire. You say, must be nice. Then you go back to playing small. You know what's crazy? You don't even realize how much of your personality is built around avoiding disapproval. You choose safe opinions, safe humor, safe dreams. You don't say what you really think in meetings. You don't post what you really believe. You don't chase what you really want. Because you're scared someone will say, "Who do you think you are?" Let me answer that for you. You're the damn owner of your life. But you've been acting like a guest. You're afraid of disappointing your parents, afraid of losing friends, afraid your partner won't understand, afraid coworkers will judge you, afraid strangers on the internet will criticize you. So you self-censor. You water yourself down so people can swallow you easier. And the longer you do that, the weaker you feel. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more. You feel it when you're alone. You feel it late at night when everything's quiet. There's a version of you that's stronger, louder, more decisive. But every morning, you put the mask back on. Why? Because being liked feels good. Rejection feels like death. Your brain treats social rejection like a physical threat. It makes your heart race. It makes you overthink. It makes you replay conversations in your head like you're on trial. But here's the brutal truth. You are already rejecting yourself. Every time you silence your voice to keep someone else comfortable, you abandon yourself. Every time you accept treatment you don't deserve just to avoid conflict, you send a message to your own mind, I am not worth standing up for. That message builds over time, and that's how people lose confidence. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 tiny betrayals of themselves. You think confidence is loud. You think it's flexing online or speaking perfectly in public. No. Confidence is the ability to disappoint people and still sleep at night. Confidence is saying no without writing a 10-paragraph explanation. Confidence is walking away from what drains you, even if it makes you the villain in someone else's story. Right now, you're terrified of being misunderstood. But let me tell you something freeing. You will be misunderstood anyway. You could bend over backwards for someone 10 years. One time you set a boundary, and suddenly you're different, you're selfish, you've changed. Of course you changed. You stopped believing for people who wouldn't even scratch themselves for you. That's growth. But growth feels uncomfortable because it forces you to let go of the identity you built around being the reliable one, the nice one, the easy one, the one who always shows up, the one who never says no. That identity gave you safety, but it also caged you.
And cages don't feel painful at first. They feel secure, predictable, familiar. Until one day you realized you built the bars yourself. You trained people how to treat you. You trained them to expect your silence, your compliance, your flexibility, your endless understanding. And now you're angry that they don't respect you. Respect starts when you respect yourself enough to risk losing people. Read that again in your head. Respect starts when you're willing to lose what only survives because you stay small. Nobody is coming to rescue you from this pattern. Not your partner, not your friends, not some motivational video. You have to decide that your life matters more than your image. You have to decide that being real is more important than being liked. And that decision, it will cost you. It might cost you approval. It might cost you comfort. It might cost you relationships built on the old version of you. But what's the alternative? Spending the next 20 years slowly suffocating so other people can stay comfortable? That's not noble. That's tragic. And if you don't wake up now, you're going to look back one day and realize you spent the entire prime trying to be acceptable, while your real potential waited and eventually died. This is the part where most people turn the video off, because it's easier to nod and agree than to actually change. But if you're still here, something inside you is starting to get pissed. Good. You should be. That anger? That's your self-respect trying to come back to life.
That anger you're feeling right now? Don't ignore it. That's not negativity, that's clarity. For years, you've been swallowing frustration and calling it maturity. You've been tolerating disrespect and calling it patience. You've been shrinking your ambition and calling it humility. No, you've been scared. Scared to outgrow people, scared to outshine people, scared to stand alone. So you played it safe. You laughed at jokes that weren't funny. You agreed with opinions you didn't believe in. You stayed in environments that drained you because leaving would cause tension, and tension makes you uncomfortable. But let's break this down. Why does tension scare you so much? Because somewhere along the way, you learned that love is conditional. You learned that acceptance comes when you behave. You learned that keeping the peace is more important than speaking your truth. So you became agreeable, predictable, manageable. And people loved that version of you. Of course they did. That version doesn't challenge them. That version doesn't confront them. That version doesn't make them question themselves. But that version isn't fully alive. You want to know why you feel restless all the time? Why scrolling feels numbing but you still do it? Why distractions feel easier than silence? Because silence forces you to face what you've been avoiding. The truth. You are not living at your full capacity. You feel it when you see someone your age doing more. You feel it when you imagine what your life could look like if you stopped hesitating. You feel it when you think about the risks you never took. And instead of using that feeling as fuel, you turn it into self-doubt. They're different. They're more talented. They had better support. Stop. You're not behind because you lack talent. You're behind because you lack boldness. You're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect confidence, the perfect approval. There is no perfect. There is only a decision. And that decision is terrifying because once you stop pleasing everyone, you lose your safety net. People might question you. They might distance themselves. They might try to guilt you. You'll hear things like, "You've changed. You think you're better now? Why are you being so difficult?" Translation? They're uncomfortable because you're no longer easy to control. Growth threatens people who benefited from your smallness. Let that sink in. Some people don't want the best for you. They want the version of you that fits into their comfort zone. And you've been loyal to that version out of fear. Fear of loneliness. But here's the uncomfortable reality. You're already lonely. You're surrounded by people, yet you don't feel understood. You're in conversations, but you're filtering yourself. You're in relationships, but you're not fully seen.
That's not connection. That's performance. Real connection only happens when you're authentic, and authenticity comes with risk. You might lose people, but you might also finally find your real tribe. Right now, you're choosing fake harmony over real growth. You avoid hard conversations. You avoid setting boundaries. You avoid saying what you actually want. And every time you avoid it, you reinforce the belief that your needs come last. That belief is poison. It makes you resentful. It makes you passive-aggressive. It makes you secretly angry at the very people you're trying to please. And that anger doesn't disappear. It builds. Until one day you explode. Or you burn out. Or you wake up at 40 wondering where the hell your fire went. Wake the hell up before that day comes. You are not here to be tolerated. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to live a quiet, unchallenging life just so nobody feels uncomfortable around you. Comfort zones are seductive. They feel safe. They feel warm. They feel predictable. But comfort is where potential goes to die. You keep choosing short-term comfort over long-term respect, short-term approval over long-term power, short-term peace over long-term freedom, and you call that being a good person. No, being a good person doesn't mean betraying yourself. Being kind doesn't mean being spineless. Being understanding doesn't mean accepting everything. Strength and kindness can coexist, but you can't be strong if you're constantly bending. Right now, your life is being shaped by what you're afraid of losing: approval, validation, belonging. But what if you flipped it? What if your life was shaped by what you refuse to lose? Your self-respect, your ambition, your voice. That shift changes everything. Because the moment you decide that your integrity matters more than their opinion, you become dangerous in the best way possible. And that's when the real transformation starts.
Here's the part nobody warns you about. The moment you stop living to please others, it gets lonely. Not because you made the wrong choice, but because you stopped being convenient. When you start saying no, people get confused. When you stop over-explaining yourself, people get uncomfortable. When you draw boundaries, people test them. And that's when your old habits try to pull you back. You'll feel the urge to apologize just to smooth things over. You'll feel the itch to send that extra text to fix the vibe. You'll want to shrink again because tension feels unbearable. That's the withdrawal. You've been addicted to being needed. Now you're detoxing, and detox is ugly. You'll question yourself. You'll think, maybe I'm being too harsh. You'll wonder if you're turning into the villain. Good. That means you're breaking the pattern. Because for once, you're choosing your own alignment over their comfort. Let's get brutally honest. You've been over-functioning in other people's lives to avoid under-functioning in your own. You give advice, you help, you show up, you fix problems, you support everyone, but when it comes to your own goals, you hesitate, you procrastinate, you scroll, you tell yourself you're not ready. It's easier to be the hero in someone else's story than the main character in your own. Because if you fail in your own life, there's no one else to blame. So pleasing others became your distraction. You stay busy making sure everyone else is okay so you don't have to confront the fact that you're playing small. That stops now. If you want your life to change, you need to accept something uncomfortable. Some people will leave when you grow. Not because you're wrong, but because the old dynamic is gone. They liked you when you were always available. They liked you when you never challenged them. They liked you when you were predictable. Growth makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability scares people who rely on you staying the same. But listen carefully. If someone only supports you when you're small, that support was never real. Real support doesn't disappear when you level up. Real love doesn't shrink when you expand. The problem is you've been measuring your worth by how useful you are to others, how reliable, how agreeable, how accommodating. But your value is not based on how easy you are to handle. You don't exist to be managed. You exist to evolve. Right now, you're standing at a crossroads. One path keeps you liked. The other path makes you respected. You can have both sometimes, but if you have to choose, choose respect. Respect builds confidence. Respect builds standards. Respect builds strength. Approval is temporary. It fades the moment you stop performing. And here's something that will hit hard. The version of you that's afraid to disappoint people is the same version that's afraid to chase greatness. It's the same fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being criticized, fear of being exposed. But greatness requires exposure. You can't rise and hide at the same time. You can't build something meaningful while constantly checking who might disapprove. You can't become powerful while being obsessed with being liked. Wake up. Look at your life objectively. Where are you tolerating what you shouldn't? Where are you silent when you should speak? Where are you holding back because someone might feel uncomfortable? That's your growth edge. That's where your next level is hiding. And it's not dramatic, it's small decisions. Saying no without guilt, speaking your opinion calmly, walking away from conversations that drain you, spending time building your goals instead of maintaining fake harmony. It won't feel heroic at first. It'll feel awkward. It'll feel tense. It'll feel like you're stepping into cold water. But on the other side of that discomfort, freedom. And not the fake freedom of doing whatever you want. Real freedom. The freedom of not constantly monitoring yourself. The freedom of not rehearsing every sentence in your head. The freedom of knowing that if someone leaves because you're authentic, they were never aligned with your real self anyway. This is where your backbone grows. Not in loud arguments, not in dramatic speeches, in quiet, consistent self-respect. And once you taste that, you'll never want to go back to being small again.
Now it gets real. Because once you stop pleasing everyone, you're left alone with yourself. No applause, no constant validation, no one telling you you're doing great just for being agreeable. Just you. And that's where most people fold. Because when the noise fades, the truth gets loud. You realize how much time you wasted trying to be digestible. How many years you spent softening your edges so people wouldn't feel insecure around you. How many opportunities you killed because you didn't want to cause tension. And that realization stings. It's easier to stay busy being liked than to face the fact that you've been scared to take ownership of your life. Let's cut through it. Nobody forced you to stay small. You chose it. You chose comfort over courage. You chose familiarity over growth. You chose temporary harmony over long-term power. That's not an insult. That's awareness. And awareness is the turning point. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You start noticing it everywhere. You notice how quickly you adjust your tone depending on who's in the room. You notice how you laugh at things you don't find funny. You notice how you hesitate before sharing an opinion. You notice how often you say, "It's fine," when it's not. That's programming. Years of conditioning telling you that being accepted equals being safe. But you're not a kid anymore. You don't need everyone to approve of you to survive. You're not going to die because someone disagrees with you. You're not going to collapse because someone is disappointed. Your nervous system reacts like you're in danger, but you're not. You're just uncomfortable. And discomfort is the gateway. Right now, you have a choice. You can keep chasing approval and wake up 10 years from now wondering why you feel empty. Or you can accept that growth comes with friction. People might talk. People might question you. People might distance themselves. Screw it. Let them. You're not responsible for managing everyone's emotions. You're responsible for managing your own direction. That shift changes everything. Because when you stop trying to control how people see you, you finally gain control over how you see yourself. And that's power. Real power isn't loud. It's not arrogant. It's not aggressive for the sake of ego.
It's calm. It's knowing who you are without needing constant reassurance. It's being able to sit in silence without reaching for your phone to numb the anxiety. It's building something meaningful even if nobody claps in the beginning. You've been measuring progress by reactions, likes, messages, approval. Start measuring progress by integrity. Did you speak up when it mattered? Did you act in alignment with your goals? Did you choose growth over comfort today? That's the scoreboard. And here's the truth that will separate you from everyone still stuck. The moment you stop living for approval, your standards rise. You stop tolerating weak conversations. You stop entertaining disrespect. You stop overcommitting just to feel needed. You start protecting your time. You start guarding your energy. You start building your own damn life instead of maintaining someone else's expectations. And that's when people will say you changed. They're right. You did. You stopped negotiating your worth. But this isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming solid. You can still be kind. You can still be generous. You can still support people. But it comes from strength, not fear. From choice, not obligation. That's the difference. Right now, you're standing on the edge of a different version of yourself. A version that doesn't beg for validation. A version that doesn't shrink to fit. A version that doesn't apologize for wanting more. And stepping into that version requires one thing: responsibility. No more blaming your parents for their expectations. No more blaming society. No more blaming your friends for holding you back. You allowed it. Now you stop allowing it. That's the shift. That's the moment. And once you cross that line, there's no going back to who you were.
So here's the question that matters now. If you stopped trying to please everyone, who would you actually become? Sit with that. Not the filtered version, not the polite version, not the safe version. The real one. The one who speaks directly, the one who takes risks, the one who doesn't ask for permission. That version of you has been waiting. Waiting while you scrolled, waiting while you overthought, waiting while you kept saying, maybe later. Later is killing you. Because later is just fear dressed up as patience. You keep telling yourself you'll be bold when the timing is right, when you're more confident, when people understand you better. That day isn't coming. Confidence doesn't show up first. Action does. An action will cost you comfort. You will lose the version of you that everyone finds easy. You will lose some connections. You will lose the illusion that you can keep everyone happy. Good. Because trying to keep everyone happy has been making you miserable. You weren't put here to be agreeable. You were put here to build something real, to stand for something, to create something, to become someone you actually respect. And respect doesn't come from playing small. It comes from discipline, from boundaries, from saying, this is who I am, take it or leave it. That statement scares you because you're afraid they might leave. But if someone leaves because you stopped betraying yourself, that's not a loss. That's alignment. Look at your life right now. If nothing changes, where will you be in 5 years? Same job you secretly hate? Same patterns in relationships? Same quiet resentment building in your chest? That's the trajectory. And trajectories don't change with wishes. They change with decisions. You don't need a dramatic moment. You don't need to burn everything down. You need small acts of courage repeated daily. Speak up once. Say no once. Choose your goal over someone's approval once. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day. Strength isn't built in one explosive move. It's built in consistent self-respect. At first, it will feel unnatural. You'll second-guess yourself. You'll replay conversations in your head. You'll feel guilt. That's normal. You're rewiring years of conditioning. But over time, something shifts.
You stop explaining yourself so much. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop asking for validation before making decisions. And you start moving with certainty. Not because everyone agrees with you, but because you agree with yourself. That's the turning point. Not when the world changes. When you change. When you decide that your life is not a democracy. Not everyone gets a vote. Not everyone gets access. Not everyone gets to influence your direction. You choose. You own it. You live with it. Nobody is coming to rescue you from a life you're too afraid to claim. Nobody is coming to tell you it's safe to be bold. You either wake the hell up now, or you keep drifting. Stop ruining your life to protect other people's comfort. Stop shrinking so you don't intimidate. Stop silencing yourself so you don't disappoint. You get one shot at this. One body, one mind, one timeline. Don't waste it performing. Build something that makes you proud. Stand in your own damn space. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, that's not your problem anymore. That's growth.